Hey, what's up, guys? I have two things for you today, or tonight, or tomorrow morning, or whenever you see this. The first is, I'm really thankful for the people that have chosen to watch me when they could watch someone else. And it's like that's not something that I ever thought that would be possible for me. Coming from my background in the strengths and weaknesses that I have. It's really cool that people have continued to watch my stuff. If you have, and I got my first comment yesterday, um, which was nice. It was really nice. Special shout out to that guy. Sorry, I don't know your username. I'm really bad with names. Like a lot of people say that, but I really am. Like my memory is not very good over the short term, right? So yeah, I just want to say thank you to everyone who's. I'm thankful for all my views. Every view I get, I'm thankful for. My channel is growing. It looks like, so that's very cool that it's moving in a positive direction. Um, yeah. So thanks, guys. The other part of this is I wanted to talk a little bit about narratives. Oh, and just one more thing before I move on to narratives. It's Thanksgiving today, so that's why I'm thanking everyone. To show the spirit of Thanksgiving and to be thankful for what I have as a human being. Yeah. So now narrative. What's interesting about narrative is we all set up these narratives in how we conduct our lives, right? We set up these narratives of behavior, we set up narratives of what we say and how we engage with other people. We set up narratives in terms of what our um, imprint is on things, and we get feedback from other people based on our impact and our imprint and things like that, and that seems to carry us on in how we pursue that a particular avenue, right? It's like a lot of it is unconscious, um, and a lot of it, it's hard to really say where that comes from, right? It's like part of it is biological, and with that, I would say, introversion and extroversion are two examples of that. How it's, I think what I figured out is that introversion and extroversion might be one of those things that skips generations sometimes. So I think my grandpa, um, on my mom's side, was a strong introvert, and but my grandma was an extrovert on my mom's side, and I don't know what my grandpa was on my dad's side. My dad's dad died when my dad was 12, so he didn't really get a good, what it means to be an adult as a man sort of thing. And from what I understand, his dad wasn't, well, let's just say he wasn't exactly a compassionate individual. I guess we'll just say that. So that's what my dad learned from, and my grandmother on my dad's side, she was calm as a lamb, right? She was an introvert, I think. So what's interesting is we have at least two introverts and probably one and a half or two extroverts. I have suspicions that my grandpa on my dad's side was um, extroverted. Anyways, I go on to say all that to say that when you speak as someone where you come from, right? That's inherent to who you are as a person. Is like Carl Jung talked about this, and like as he wrote as who he was. He didn't write as, well, I am the authority on all this stuff. He wrote as a person that understood, I come from this background, and because of this background and because of my personality, this is how it comes out. And so it's good to recognize that as a person, to realize, what is a narrative that you are setting up for yourself with other people. And you can think about that in small ways, right? Like, what do you do when somebody, gives you a compliment? What do you say? What do you say? How do you handle that? Another way to see how it goes is, when you engage in conversation, what is the topics like that you talk about from time to time, on a frequent basis? Does that vary, and how does that vary? And also think about, what is the feedback that you are getting from other people? Like I mentioned compliment earlier, like how do you react to that compliment? Well, you can think about, when you have a struggle too. And I would think you would want to, when you struggle, to persevere, right? And to sort of have a sort of gentle nature about that, and to sort of, I guess, from a Christian perspective, you would want that joy to spring forth out of you when you are suffering, right? When you have pain in your life. Not suffering, but pain. So, yeah, I mean, people might say something bad about you, and, how do you handle that? How do you approach that? And there's a lot of different ways that you can go about it, but the basis is, is there joy in it, right? Is there joy in putting yourself out there as a person to speak truth, right? Because a lot of times truth is controversial. In fact, I would say almost all the time it's controversial. People just don't want to have truth. I mean, there's a truth that gets displayed in the culture at the time, right? And these are sort of like mini narratives that run out throughout history, and they go and they come, and they go and they come, and this sets up a larger meta sort of conversation that humanity has with itself, where first the culture says, hey, let's do this, and then these people over here say, no, I don't want to do that, and then they say, well, let's switch over to that side, and they all go over here, and then the same thing happens, hey, I don't want to do that, let's go over there, and they all go over here. So what we're seeing in that is that there's a crazy right wing that was happening, and I don't want to make this channel a political channel at all. I hate politics, like I really do. But what we're seeing is that we went from the Nazi Germany, which was really right wing, and we're going over to the left now. At least in the U.S., it's like where everybody has equal everything, and I don't think that's good. But that's just what I think. Other people might think, well, there's nothing wrong with that. Well, okay, so I'm not going to get into that in this video, but I will say that in terms of narrative, it's like this conversation that humanity has with itself, where it goes from this end to this end, and it just kind of goes back and forth throughout history. And, you're always going to have conquerors, and when there's conquerors, that means that there's usually a higher right side that's happening right over here. And then when there's more, how would I say this, more suffering, more persecution, that happens all along the way. But generally the right are people that are more dogmatic in terms of, what are expectations of other people, and if you don't fulfill those, well, then you need to be punished. And so the left is the exact opposite. They think, as you are in the left, you belong to everyone, and everyone belongs to you, and nobody belongs to anyone else. And so that's sort of the idea behind the left. But anyway, setting up narratives in our life, a lot of the times we tell ourselves certain things about certain things, and because of that, it just kind of spirals into this, like, keeps going and keeps perpetuating in logical fashion, and it kind of builds on itself and it gets more developed as it goes. I'm recalling from Andrew Schwab at one point. He gave a Tin Soldiers talk at Sunshine Music Festival, and that's one of the things that I recall that was in the book too. Is like, or was that yeah, I think it was a Tin Soldiers talk, and he talked about how people become more of who they are as they go out through life, and so they become more biased in their particular biases as they go through life, and that's even more true now as we see in the technology age that we are in right now, where we have algorithms that essentially poke at people's biases and figure out what exactly their biases are and try to poke them as hard as they can and to try to get those people to go as far as they can with that. So that's kind of interesting and tragic at the same time, but what can you do? Um, so yeah, that's what I have to say about narrative. And again, thank you all for viewing my channel and giving me the time of day. Um, yeah, I really appreciate it. So thanks. Bye.